Welcome, everyone. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nancy Ferguson, and I'm your chair of the Canadian Shield Regional Council. And with me to my left, Peter Hartmans, our executive minister for both the Canadian Shield Regional Council and Shining Waters Regional Council. Also seated to the far left of me is Susan Whitehead, and Susan is Peter's executive assistant, and she will be taking minutes for our meeting this morning. We're also excited to welcome everyone to the 2025 Canadian Shield Regional Council meeting. And at the beginning, during the Zoom refresher, we were invited to keep your microphones on mute, if you could, for the meeting, and until you're invited to speak. By muting your microphone, it eliminates a lot of background noise so that we can hear all the presenters and all the reports. In the name of Jesus Christ, head of the church, and by the authority conferred on me by the Canadian Shield Regional Council, I hereby declare this meeting of the Canadian Shield Regional Council to be in session for the work that may properly be brought before it to the glory of God. Now I'm going to invite Peter, our executive secretary, or executive minister, sorry, to light the Christ candle. So he's going to make his way up to the table. For where two or three are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them, says Jesus. We light the Christ candle, deeply aware of this promise, and open ourselves to the working of the Spirit in all that we say and in all that we do. Amen. And we begin with an acknowledgement both of the land upon which we meet and our commitment to safe spaces. The lands where we gather today across this region have been places of gathering for First Nations people as they camped and traveled across the land for generations beyond our own knowing. Before people arrived from across the seas, these nations lived, they loved, they praised children, and they made a living. They lived in harmony with all that the Creator had made. As we meet today, we recognize those traditional sojourners in this land. We acknowledge that our history has come at a great cost to Indigenous communities, and we commit ourselves to be partners in healing and reconciliation. We'd like to particularly acknowledge the Robinson-Huron Treaty of 1850. We further recognize that as Peter, Susan, Diane, who's in an outer office, and I gather on the grounds of Emmanuel United Church here in Sault Ste. Marie, that the land on which we gather is the traditional land of the Ojibwe people, a part of the Robinson-Huron Treaty of 1850, Treaty number 61. We honor Obadjwin, Batchewana First Nation, and Kitgunsabi, Garden River First Nation, as the original caretakers of the land that Emmanuel United Church is situated, and acknowledge the contributions of the historic Métis Nation of Sault Ste. Marie in the stewardship of this territory. Across the Regional Council, we congregate on lands that have been stewarded by many Indigenous and Métis nations. And on this day, we offer gratitude and respect to the first inhabitants of the places where we work and where we worship. Now, the Canadian Shield Regional Council seeks to be a safe and brave place for all people to gather and participate in the life and the work of the Regional Council. A space that is affirming and inclusive to all ages, races, sexes, genders, abilities, immigration status, and lived experiences. Everyone in the space acknowledges that there may be some discomfort due to discussing topics that may be uncomfortable in nature. In the establishment of a safe and brave space, participants honor each other's experiences and opinions with respect to achieve a place of understanding. a space free of fear, a space free of bullying and harassment of any kind. The most important part of a safe and brave space is inclusion of all. So today I'm pleased to introduce our chaplain for this meeting, the Reverend Sean Redden. There she is. She is available for our meeting, and I encourage anyone who needs pastoral care to contact her via a private room chat message. And as Kathleen walked us through the different commands on your screen at the bottom, she led you to the chat box, so you can pick Sean's name and send her a direct message. Also like to introduce and extend our gratitude to the Reverend Bill Stedman. He's going to pop up shortly. Bill is going to be our parliamentarian, there he is, for the meeting. He keeps us on point, make sure we're following the rules of order and not missing any of those T's and I's. Thank you, Bill. We also welcome the Reverend Rob Smith, who will be our equity advocate for the meeting. Rob he'll be listening for voices that are not being heard and will provide feedback to the executive about how we can work at creating safer regional council meetings for all participants. Thank you, Rob. Diane Matheson Jimenez, who is in the building, but around the corner, will be our online scrutineer to assist us when we need to vote. So we thank Diane for that. Welcome and thank you to all. And now I'm going to pass this over to Peter to introduce our staff cohort.
Morning, everybody. It's lovely to see all of you virtually today from across our region, and a pleasure to gather with you. As we begin today, I want to introduce to you our staff. We are well served by staff in the Regional Council. All of our staff are serve both the Canadian Shield Regional Council or Shining Waters Regional Council, or in the case of Melody, she serves Canadian Shield Regional Council, Shining Waters Regional Council, and also serves the General Council as staff. I'd like to begin by introducing to you Celio de Andre Santos Jr., who is administrative support to Canadian Shield Regional Council and Shining Waters Regional Council. And it's a pleasure to work with him today. He's doing the person behind the scene doing the tech, and we're so glad to have him here today. I'd like to introduce to you Melody Duncanson-Hale, who a lot of you are familiar with. Her position is Community of Faith Support Minister, Stewardship for Canadian Shield and Shining Waters Regional Council, and also connects us to the General Council. Diane Matheson Jimenez, Staff Lead and Community of Faith Support Minister, who's with us here in Sault Ste. Marie today, as we shared earlier. Sean Redden, Faith Formation and Social Justice Minister, also serving as your chaplain today. Donna Roots, Communications and Administrative Support, and your tech support today if you have trouble, and her emails in the chat if you need support. Rob Smith, Pastoral Relations Minister, and also Equity Monitor today, as we mentioned just a minute ago. Kathleen Jones, Administrative Support, who also provided the introduction today. Susan Whitehead, who is on my left, is my executive assistant and administrative support for both Shining Waters Regional Council and Canadian Shield Regional Council. Miranda McKenzie is our bookkeeper and a great person to support us all around finances, and she's coming to us from Barrie today. I won't do that for everybody, but it's nice to know a little bit where folks are coming from. Jody Maltby, Minister of Finance and Property. Janet McDonald, Finance Administrator, and she will be sadly retiring in June, but we're excited for her entering a new chapter in life. We're been well served by her for many years. And I'm Peter Hartman's Executive Minister for the Canadian Shield Regional Council and Shining Waters Regional Council. And again, it's a pleasure to be with all of you today as we virtually gather together in this space.
Thank you. Good morning, friends. My name is Diane Matheson Jimenez. I use she, her pronouns, and it is my privilege to serve as your staff lead. This morning, I am going to offer some words to ground us in this time and in this space. I was thinking recently about when I first started babysitting. I took the babysitter's course and I took the first aid course, and I was prepared because safety was my #1 priority. And now that I'm a parent of 2 6-year-olds, I have a greater appreciation that safety is kind of unattainable. My 2 6-year-olds can find unsafe circumstances every and anywhere. And as soon as I think that I have safetied something, surprise, they have found a new way to create danger and to wreak havoc. And sometimes when we think about setting the tone for how we're going to be in relationship with one another, we talk about safety. Instead, I would invite us into a brave space, a space where we're accountable for the impact both of the words that we say and the words that we don't say. A space where we reflect on and name our own biases that we know we all bring to the table. A space where we actively listen to more deeply understand one another. A space where we vocalize questions that arise from our learnings. Curiosity is a powerful thing. And a space where we encounter new ideas with curiosity and with wonder. May it be so.
Now, the consent and procedural motions which form our consent agenda are found in your resource book on page 7 and on our website. You've all had the opportunity to review the consent agenda prior to the meeting. Please chat. Well, we said we couldn't. Is everyone, I know in the original walkthrough, it indicated that the chat box was only set to the staff persons, not to is it available to everyone?
It is at this time, Chair Nancy.
Okay, thank you, Diane. So at this time, please chat to everyone in the chat box. If you wish to have an item removed from the consent agenda to be placed on the meeting's agenda, if any 5 voting members request an item, it will be removed. So let's just take a minute. Is there any item in the consent agenda that you wish to be removed? Have you received any items, Diane?
In the chat, there are some items that need to be addressed, but not in regards to removing something from the consent docket.
Okay. We'll hang on to those. So at this time, there's been no indication that there's a wish to remove any item. So we'll continue without discussion, and the consent agenda is ready for a vote. So we'll have the motion on the screen. And the motion is, it is moved by Peter Hartmans. We'll get a seconder in a minute, that the 2025 Canadian Shield Regional Council online meeting consent agenda and procedural motions be adopted. So we've heard the motion read. We now ask for a seconder. So whoever puts their hand up, virtual hand up first.
Chair Nancy, I see Stephen Lowith's hand.
Thank you, Stephen. So Stephen Lowith seconds that motion. So it's now, there's no discussion. It's now time to vote. So when the poll appears on your screen, I'd ask you to choose one option, yes, no, or abstain. You have 2 minutes to vote. If there's 2 of you in the room, and one can vote through the chat box to Diane with your name and your yes, no, or abstain.
Chair Nancy, the vote is 64, 0 against, and 3 abstentions.
Right. The motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you. We're now going to turn to our opening worship. Oh, I'm going to hit my button on the screen. There we go. Good, good. And we're beginning with a call to worship, and we're beginning by highlighting a couple of people across the region that are joining in the call to worship. Stephen Lois, who's in Thunder Bay, James Coe, who's in Sudbury, and Peter Haddow, who's in North Bay. So we wanted people from across the region in those key cities to be those four directions, so to speak. Let's center ourselves in worship. In this season of Easter,
we unite across this vast region over wireless networks and Ethernet cables.
for the Spirit has called us to gather.
The one who in love created and still create, compels us to worship and praise.
The one in whom we find abundant life and purpose.
Join us as one body in this time, in this virtual space.
Let us gather for our opening piece, like a rock. Faye's going to lead us through. The words will be on your screen. We're going to sing it twice. Let us pray. Loving God, as we gather together as your people, as we reconnect one with the other, we're so thankful for the many ways you continue to inspire and direct us as we seek to follow the working of your Spirit. This morning, as we gather in this virtual space for this regional meeting, may we be ever mindful of this place we call home, ever mindful of this rock upon which we meet, the winds and waves that shape and challenge us, and the solid foundation you provide in our times of worry and wonder. In this time together, O God, renew us, strengthen us, and ground us in you. Amen. Amen. We have a couple of people joining us for the scripture reading. We have Helen Smith, who's here in the stew, and we have Lawrence Mvunzi, who is serving in the Blind River Pastoral Charge. There we are. Let us listen again to the Easter story, first recounted just 2 weeks ago, the story of what happened in the days after Jesus' brutal death, as recorded in Mark's Gospel.
When the Sabbath was over, Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James, and Salome brought spices so that they might anoint him. And on that very early first day of the week, when the sun was risen, they went to the tomb. They had been saying to one another,
"Who will roll away the stone for us from the entrance to the tomb?"
but when they looked up, they saw the stone, which was very large, had already been rolled away. As they entered the tomb, they saw a young man dressed in a white robe, sitting on the right side, And they were alarmed, but he said to them,
Do not be alarmed. You are looking for Jesus Christ, Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He has risen. He has been raised. He is not here. Look, there is a place they laid him. But go tell his disciples and Peter that he is going ahead of you to Galilee. There you will see him, just as he told you.
So they went out and fled from the tomb, for terror and amazement had seized them. And they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid.
Hear what the Spirit is saying to the church. Thanks
Thanks be to God.
William Holman Hunt's painting, The Light of the World, can be found in stained glass form across this country in many a church. In fact, in my home church here in Sault Ste. Marie, it's St. Andrew's. You couldn't miss it. It was front and center in the chancel area, larger than life. And as a youngster, I was fascinated by it. In the image, Hunt depicts Jesus knocking at the door, or some surmise he's poised to knock. The door is blocked by dense overgrowth, a suggestion that the door hasn't been opened in quite some time. And there's no handle on the outside of the door, suggesting it can only be opened from the inside. Every Sunday, standing at that window with Jesus outside, we were confronted by the knock, by the invitation. Do I open the door? On the death of Pope Francis, a number of stories have been circulating, among them this one, in which the former cardinal offers a reflection on this familiar image of Jesus standing and knocking at the door. He said, the traditional and pious reading is that Jesus is knocking to be admitted, to come into our hearts, to enter our lives. But what if Jesus is knocking for us to come out instead, to join him in the world outside? Jesus insisted knocking not to come in, but for us to come out into the world. We're still in those early days of the season of Easter, and over these last couple of weeks, we've been encountering stories, and we'll be encountering more stories of the risen Christ passing through walls and appearing on the other side of locked doors and down by the seashore. To the surprise of the disciples, he doesn't knock, he just appears in the midst of them, showing his scars, baking bread, cooking fish, and offering forgiveness and grace. As I was reading again the gospel shared this morning, I was caught by the image, not of a closed door and a persistent knock, but of a gaping open tomb. Heads down at first, the women didn't notice that the large stone had been rolled away. They expected it to still be sealed. Instead, they discovered the opposite to be true. There's nothing dividing them. The choice is not, do I open the door? Do I roll away the stone? It's, do I go in and sit with death? Or do I turn and follow the one who's already left the tomb and is patiently waiting for me to catch up with him in Galilee? Inspired by the witness of Pope Francis, what if the stone has been rolled away, not to invite us in to see, but to send us out to do, to witness? The spirit that flung Jesus out into the desert following his baptism is the same spirit that moved that large stone and flung him out of the tomb. And the large stone, revealing the empty tomb, is now inviting us to join him in the world in that same spirit. A few years ago now, we were lamenting, as clergy and ministry personnel often do, the state of the church. that there were so many resources from our national church to help us close doors, but very little on how to open them. So many more resources on the proper way to turn off the lights, but very little in the way of moving the stone. Was it a phase we were going through? Or had it unwittingly set a course for the future? When the National Church announced that one of the centennial initiatives was to plant 100 new churches, there wasn't a loud cheer. Instead, there was an audible moan, I think, because we felt ill-prepared, that we've been hanging on for so many years, sitting with, anticipating death, that it's hard to shift our energy to life. You know, in a few weeks, we'll be gathering for a town hall to take a deep dive into the final report on the state of the church entitled Towards 2035. Like the temptation to go and sit with death, will we accept the findings of the report as fact and resign ourselves to act accordingly? Or will we, like the two Marys and Salome, take a leap of faith and follow the Spirit out of the tomb into new ways of being church for a new generation, for the next centenary? In both Hunt's painting and in the Easter story, we have a choice. Life is before us. May we, like the women, run to share the good news that life wins every time. Let us pray. God of open doors and empty tombs, we give thanks for this moment to consider our own response to the good news of your rising. As we meet to deliberate and celebrate, to ponder and remember, to listen and consider, open our hearts and hands with thanksgiving as we receive all the possibilities that await. May we open the door to your knock, cross the threshold of your empty tomb, and walk into your wondrous world with humility and wonder, all the while praying together, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Amen. I'm going to turn it over to Faye, and she's going to lead us in the singing of our closing hymn, The Spring Has Come. Voices United in 187.
The spring has come, let all the church be part of it. The world has changed and God is at the heart of it. New light, new day, new color after winter gray. New light, new day, the spring has come, let all the church be part of it. The sun is warm, let all God's children play in it. The world expands, let's spread the gospel way in it. New leaf, new thrust, new greeting for the love of Christ. New leaf, new thrust, the sun is warm, let all God's children play in it. The spring has come, new people are the flowers of it. Through wind and rain, new life is in the shores of it. New blood, new shoot, new hope will bear the Spirit's fruit. New blood, new shoot, the spring has come, new people are the flowers of it.
Thank you, Faye, and thank you, everyone, and all the readers and participants, and everyone who joined in worship today. Now, As we did not receive any proposals for consideration by the posted deadline, we're going to move on to the next agenda item, which is the 2026 draft budget and funds presentation, which can be found on page 72 and 73 of your resource book. I'll invite Jody Maltby to present the 2026 draft budget.
Thank you, Chair Nancy. I am just going to share my screen in case anyone doesn't have the document in front of them.
Okay.
So if you can let me know when you can see that.
Looks great, Jody.
Thanks, Diane. I am joined today by my colleague Miranda McKenzie as our bookkeeper, and many of you will have already interacted with her. She's been with us since October. And Janet McDonald, our finance administrator, is also here. This is a time of transition in our staff team around the financial management. So Janet kept all the books up till the end of 2025, and Miranda has started keeping the books Janet to the end of 2024, and Miranda has started in 2025. So we've worked together on creating the financial statement for 2024. That was Janet and Miranda together, and the three of us for the budget for 2026. So looking at our financial statement for 2024, I just want to note it is still a draft. We're on track for the audit to begin in a few days. And this financial statement that you have before you has been reviewed by the finance team in April and also by the executive this past Thursday. So it's been well considered in light of what is needed to support the ministry of the region and the communities of faith that you support. And already I'll tell you that the executive is asking some good questions. For example, have we budgeted enough for an in-person regional meeting in 2026? So Miranda and I will do a bit more research with Sue and the planning team to make sure that this figure is realistic for final approval. So there may be a few tweaks, but for the most part, we think that this is a good estimate of our projected income and expenses for 2026. Those of you with eagle eyes may have noticed that the version of it in your resource book was titled Budget 2025 Budget. But I do just want to confirm that what we are looking at today is the budget for 2026. And it seems like it's really early to do that. And that's why when you are invited to consider a motion, it's going to be a motion to approve a draft budget that will then be referred back to the executive for a final approval in the fall. And that gives us an opportunity as we pay attention to our expenses going over this year and as we think about plans for next year, just to make sure that our budget will properly address that. As we know, a budget is our best guess at the beginning of the year what our expenses will be. And that's based on the expenses of previous years. It's based on our plans for the coming year. The financial statement shows what our expenses actually were. And as I'm just going to move the screen down a bit. I'm going to try to. There we go. So you'll see that for the most part, our expenses in 2024, some of them were a little higher than we expected. Some of them were lower than we expected. But if you go down right to the bottom, you will see that our expenses were fairly close to what we had anticipated in the 2024 budget. And if there are any questions about specific expense amounts, at the end of our presentation, we'll have time for questions, and Janet is here with us to help answer some of those questions. I think the biggest surprise in your 2024 financial statement, your income from investments you'll see it is significantly higher than what was budgeted for 2024. And our investment advisor, Jake Bailey, indicates that that's because the interest rates were significantly higher. You will notice looking across the screen, we are not expecting that level of investment income in either 2025 or 2026. So we have set that amount at 90,000. Also, not as good news, the income from sale of property was significantly higher than we had expected. The good news is we are hopeful that we will not see that in 2025 or 2026 to that level. But those two income amounts in particular mean that you'll see there that our total income was significantly higher than was expected in 2024. So that means that, again, scrolling down to the bottom, your actual income over expenses was just under $300,000. So that's always a positive experience when our income exceeds our expenses. But if you look across again to 2026, we're not anticipating that that will be the case next year. So looking more closely at some of our expectations, in terms of the national grants, and these are the grants that we receive from the General Council, we are expecting those to remain constant. We won't know this for sure until the General Council executive holds their meeting later in the fall and approves the General Council's budget. But our early indicators suggest that those grants will stay the same. The Mission and Service Grant decreased in 2024, you may remember, from 260,000 to 180,000. We don't expect another increase or another decrease, although, as I mentioned, it's dependent on the decision of the General Council executive. Our assessment grant, which is the grant that comes from the assessments that are collected across the entire United Church and then shared with the General Council, with the National Indigenous Church, and with the 16 regions. Again, we're not expecting there to be a decrease. There has not, in fact, been a decrease since the regional council structure started. But this is dependent on that later meeting. And this is part of the reason why we don't approve a final version of the budget until later in the fall after those decisions have been made. Because the other significant number that we don't get until that time is what the cost of living increases might be for our staff amounts. So we're projecting that your total income for 2026 will be around 863,000. The expenses are projected to look very similar to what we've seen in 2024. One significant increase is that because we're looking at an in-person regional meeting, that amount will be higher than it is this year, but we won't have the expense of the Festival of Faith, so it kind of balances off one another. And the other thing I just wanted to mention about the income versus expenses is that although we don't anticipate the grants going down, our costs, as I mentioned, with staffing in particular, but some of our other costs, they do continue to increase. And you keep a very tight budget. You don't have a lot of expenses, and so it does project that over the years, the gap between your income and your expenses might increase, but we're encouraging your executive to have some good conversation about how to best use your financial resources to support your mission in Canadian Shield. So it's an ongoing dialogue. And we're grateful for the wisdom of both the finance team and the executive in helping us to set these goals. I think that's all I'm planning to say for now. Unless Peter wants to jump in, I'm just kind of looking to see. Do you have anything you wanted to say, Peter?
I don't have any extra comments. I think you've covered it really well. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I'm gonna pass it back to Nancy to see if there are any questions that we can answer. And I'm going
Thank
to
you,
stop
Jody.
sharing.
What we could do is get the motion on the books and then open it for discussion. Right? Okay, so let's, Celio, if we could put the motion on the screen. The motion is that on the recommendation of the executive, the Canadian Shield Regional Council approve the 2026 draft budget as presented and refer it back to the executive. So I need a mover and I need a seconder.
Chair Nancy, I saw Bill Stedman's hand first and John
Okay.
Watson's hand second.
Okay, Bill and John Watson. That's good. So we now have a mover and a seconder. Is there any discussion about the motion? Any discussion? And I see Stephen Loweth has raised his hand.
Yeah. Thanks, Nancy, and thanks, Jody, for that overview. It was really great. Just curious about the Festival of Faith line. That shows a $5,000 income. Is that just anticipated that maybe the Festival of Faith will make enough money to be able to send $5,000 back, or if you can explain why it's there after Festival of Faith receiving 30,000? That's it.
I'm just scrolling up on my screen to see it and looking to see if either Janet or, oh no, so that's in the 2025 budget, right? That you're looking at?
Correct. Yeah, it
Yes.
shows 5,000 income and then 30,000 giving away. Yeah.
So I'll defer to Miranda or Janet on that one.
Thanks very
I
much.
believe that will be registration fees that we will collect.
Okay, so as people pay their registration, that does show up in our as income in our financial records.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Stephen. Are there any other questions? I don't see any raised hands. Nope. Any in the chat box? Nope.
Chair Nancy, there
Okay.
is a hand, BMC
okay.
Chesney Rumble.
Okay. There we go. Thank you. So you just have to unmute yourself. Okay, so you'll
Unmute.
so
Okay,
maybe
now I should be
there.
unmuted. Okay. All right, I'm
There
sorry,
you go.
that was me making a mistake. I voted ahead of time. I shouldn't have.
Oh,
Because the vote was up,
okay.
I voted. And
No,
it said
no,
raise
the
hand, so I raised my
motions.
hand.
Yeah, no, motion's up, but we're having a discussion. So any questions first, and then we're going to go into the voting.
All right, thank you. Okay, so should I vote again or is my vote registered already?
Yes, yes, no, because we haven't called for the vote yet. So just
Okay, so I'll vote
hang
again.
on.
Okay.
Yes, when I call it.
All right, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I don't see any more questions, Diane.
I see no
Okay.
further hands.
Okay, thank you. So we now have the motion before us. It's time to vote. That means if the poll's on the screen, if you're able to vote through the poll, yes, no, or abstain. If you are a second person or you don't have access to the poll, you can use the chat box and put your name first and then either yes, no, or abstain. So we'll take 2 minutes. I think the time is up.
Chair Nancy, the vote is 61 for, 0 against, and 1
okay.
abstention.
And there should be a second abstention. Peter Hartmans has indicated he normally abstains on this vote. So if you could add another addition.
Thank you.
All right. And could you repeat the numbers again, Diane?
61 for, 0 against,
Okay.
2
and
abstentions.
Okay, the motion is carried. Thank you, Jody. Thank you, Jody. Okay, we're going to take that off the screen. There we go. And we're going to turn it over to Peter.
It's a pleasure to talk to you folks today. As you can see, Janet just came on the screen. Janet was serving the regional council while we were still a twinkle in the region's eye. Before we even had a name, it was Region 6, like from some movie or something. And she agreed to join at the beginning to support us around our finances, which was a gargantuan task, because when you're creating a first budget, it's a bit of a shot in the dark. You don't know the numbers, you need to guess. We didn't know the funds we were going to work with. We didn't know our finances. With communities of faith or businesses, you often build on a budget from year to year. Well, she had to work from scratch. So we really benefited from her experience. She served as the treasurer at Hamilton Conference for many years, and then agreed to come over to Canadian Shield and serve as a financial support person. And now she's come to the chapter in her life where she would like to do something else in her life besides many things she has done. She also served in the parish. I'm not sure folks knew that she has multi-roles or had multi-roles in the church, but now she's moving into a primary role as being grandma to her grandkids and other exciting adventures in her life. So she is retiring at the end of June, which both makes me sad, but I'm also delighted for her, as she's been a faithful servant for our church over many years, and most recently as Canadian Shield Regional Council financial support person. So I want to congratulate you. And while I know that with Zoom you can't hear group clapping, you could hear my clapping, Nancy's clapping, and imagine that it's the clapping of the regional council. There we go. We are so grateful for you and your support, and also helping us through this transition to our new financial support team. So thank you so very much, Janet, for your years of service.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Janet.
Peter and the group. Thank you very much. As Peter said, I'm transitioning to grandma, and in about 15 minutes, I am definitely transitioning to grandma when the youngest of my grandchildren will be here for the next week. So
wonderful. All the blessings to you. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Janet. Okay. We're now going to ask Kathy Smith, who serves on the nominations committee. Bill Jones is the chair, but he's unable to be with us this morning. But Kathy has agreed to share the report and to make a nominations presentation. So Kathy.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, I'll just adjust this camera. There we go. Yes, thank you, Chair Nancy. Appreciate, I'm happy to be here with folks today. Bill is presiding at a funeral, so we ask blessings on him this day, and keep the grieving family in our prayers and thoughts. The first thing that I'm going to speak about today is about a motion that was brought to the executive, and it was passed. And this happened at their April meeting. And the motion read like this: that the CSRC executive approve the present chair's term be extended by 1 year. So instead of Nancy being done in 2025, Nancy will be done in 2026. To allow the incoming chair installation to occur at an in-person regional council meeting. And that was carried by the executive. So just know that Nancy's going to be around with us for a while. That's wonderful news. Now I would invite you now to turn to page 74 in your resource book. That's where you're going to find the nominations report. And as well, following page 74, that's where you're going to find the positions and the slate that we will be voting on at the end of this little bit of a report. I'd like to also ask Kathleen to put the link for nominations into the chat, please. So folks, if you are so moved by this, by my sharing here, and you want to serve the wider church, you'll go to that link, or you can also find that link on the website in the nominations section. So we've been busy over the last little bit. And we've prepared the slate that you can see before you. So this report is actually quite comprehensive that's in there because it actually tells you what's involved in each position. And it gives you an idea of what you might be signing up for or jumping on board for because you're so excited and you're passionate about the work of the wider church. So you'll notice as you go through those pages, there are 2 spots available at the executive level. And above in that section for executive, it tells you how often they meet and the work that they do because they are responsible for the work of the regional council between regional council in-person meetings. The pastoral relations, there's room for 1 person in that spot. Now, Property Commission, you'll recall at our last in-person meeting, this was changed from a property resource team to a property commission. And currently there are 2 to 4 spots, and particularly it would be great to have a rep from the northern area of our region. We've noticed that this is one of the ones that you kind of need people close to what's happening in property issues. So if there's anybody who would be interested in that, that would be wonderful. Nominations, there's 2 spots open. And when you get to the finance and the mission support, those are pretty much full. But the other resource teams, like the Right Relations resource team, the Affirming resource team, the youth, well, there's always room for new folks on these, and that's according to your passion. Perhaps you're passionate about right relations and learning more about that, or you're passionate about affirming and you just want to mentor youth and tell them about the great United Church of Canada. So there's always room on those. One thing that we did do this year is we put out a call for nominations for our commissioners to General Council 45, which takes place this summer in Calgary. And we have elected that. You can see that there. We'll bring it to you for your approval. We also always have alternates listed here. And the reason we do that is just in case one of the elected people can't make it, or if you were around when we almost had to use every alternate we had in the past. I can't remember if that was when we were still conferences or if it was early in our beginning as a region. So it would be nice if we had a few more. We have 3 people now listed as alternates, but if you'd like to look into that and you think you might like to do that. Now that requires that you do some work now in preparation in case you go. There's no guarantee that you would go, but it's just what we have to do to get ready. Again, you can access the link from the chat, or you can go to the website and get there through nominations, and there will be a link for you to submit your nomination should you wish to sign up and experience the work of the wider church. It is a wonderful thing to do. So I would invite anybody who's interested. At this time, I'd like to give thanks also to the members of the nominations team, to Marty Mumford, to Janice Brownlee, Laurie Stevenson, and of course, Bill Jones, our chair, and as well to our staff support, to Rob Smith and Susan Whitehead. Thank you for all that you do, and I've submitted this report on their behalf as well. And as well, I'd really be remiss if I didn't say thank you to all folks who are serving on a commission or a resource team. Without your support, the region just wouldn't function. So we give thanks for all that you do, for all the meetings and all the tapping on the shoulder. It's a wonderful thing, and we are so grateful for your support and for the work that you do on behalf of the region. So Nancy, I guess what we do now is I can turn it back to you for either questions or go straight to the vote. Now, people might think that nominations are closed, but really nominations never close because there's always spots available, right?
Well, why don't we start there? Are there any additional nominations from the floor? Anyone feel moved suddenly and spontaneously by the moving of the Spirit to add their name anywhere or everywhere? If you still have questions, of course, you can ask them of Kathy or any member of the nominations team or any member of the team or resource team or commission that you're interested in. Speak to the chair or the lead that gives you a bit more information as well. So this is not the only opportunity, but it is one opportunity to step forward. Is the chat box full? I can't see.
There are two hands raised, Chair Nancy,
Oh,
John Watson
okay.
and Pam Brown.
Okay. Okay. And John Watson, you have a question or an offering? Can we, there's John. So if you unmute yourself, John.
I'm wondering if you can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you now.
So under the commissioners to general counsel, Bill Jones is shown as chair-elect. Somehow in the back of my brain, I remember that it was actually the chair of the regional council who has a seat at the general council that doesn't have to be nominated. So that would take Nancy out of the alternatives if we're going to continue her term into next year.
Right.
Nancy, do you have?
Well, what I suggested was at our executive meeting that it makes sense for Bill to be the primary attender because 2 of the 3 years of the general council, the follow-up from general council he'll be the chair of that period of time. So it made more sense to me that he go and I would simply become an alternate if that opened up.
I would suggest, Madam Chair, that you don't have that authority. It is general counsel who has that authority.
Oh, John Watson, you are true.
Would you like a motion towards that?
In the form, I've spoken on it already, so I can't make a motion.
No. So that's a correction essentially that he's making.
I guess my question was to you, Nancy. Did you want a motion?
Pardon me?
Did you want a motion that leaves you as an alternate? That's what I was asking. I don't know if that's possible.
Okay.
Peter or Bill Stedman will know.
Well, so we did submit our proposal to general council and they accepted our proposal. We didn't receive any resistance of having Bill go in Nancy's place. So while we don't necessarily have the authority to do that, when we submitted our proposal to general council, they did accept that proposal to have Bill go in Nancy's place. And it is often, it does happen on occasion that the chair or president, depending on the regional council or the leading elder, appoint someone to go in their place. So that's where we left it, and we didn't have any. We didn't hear any concerns from the general counsel office regarding that proposal.
In that case, I would leave it as it stands. Bill Stedman, anything to add? Your face is on the screen now.
Yeah, I think Peter covered it. To answer John, the issue of who was going as the chair was decided before we extended Nancy's role as chair. So really, Bill was going to be the incoming chair for this general council. And as Peter already explained, he went back to the general council to explain the situation, and they still accepted Bill being that person because they've already started the process of orientation and planning around the general council. So John's point may be appropriate that Nancy doesn't qualify as an alternate. I would argue personally that that's not true, but that's up to the board or the regional council to decide. But certainly we have worked through the general council itself to have this accepted. So I think John's initial concern about who's going has been covered.
Thank you, Bill. Pam Brown.
You were asking about nominations. I would like to self-nominate to the Pastoral Relations Committee post June if I could have my name put forward.
Okay, Kathy? So this Pastoral Relations Commission.
So you want to submit your nominations to that, okay? We can add that name,
Currently,
but it has to be after June.
yes, and
Oh.
currently, your nominations online does not show that placeholder for Pastoral Relations Commission. So
Oh,
that would need to be
that's-
updated.
Yeah, that one position just became available just recently, and so it probably hasn't been updated yet. We just found out about that yesterday, actually. So that would be fine. We will put you, thank you. Can you fill out the actual, we'll get you that link, Pam, and then you can fill that out, okay? And then the process will be complete and we'll have seen that, and probably we'll take that to, we can add her name now. Is that possible?
Oh, just a
Yeah, yes, we can. That is possible, Kathy.
Okay.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you, Pam. Awesome.
And I see I have one more hand up, Jim Jackson.
Yes, I don't know if I'm alone in this or not, but the reference to the page that the nominating report is on in the report. The report I printed from the website did not have either that or the budget. So I have no version of a nominating report that's available to me to see what people are talking about and who's on what committees. Just wanted to make you aware of that.
Thank you.
If there's a way to get that.
Can I speak to that?
Okay.
After our
Yes, you may, Kathy. Sure.
After our nominations yesterday, Jim, we knew that some changes had to happen. So what happened is that is almost like a living document, that resource booklet. You
Yeah.
printed the whole thing, didn't you? And it got updated yesterday. And so that's all on, it got updated last evening, and that's, sorry that it's, when did you, Sue would know when did you print yours, Jim?
About a week or so ago.
Oh, yeah. It's
But I
been
also
updated.
just looked while you were talking about it, and it's not on the website.
Yeah,
but-
we just so between
sorry.
the time you printed a week ago, that's good you did it in advance. We did post it, and then we just removed it to update it, and we're in the process of reposting it again. So it was posted in the last week for printing, and then we just are updating it in real time, and it's in front of you now.
Okay.
So sorry about that, Jim.
Are there any other further questions? Seeing none. So there is a motion to come before us. If we could
Chair
put the motion
Nancy,
up.
Dave
Oh,
LeGrand
sorry,
has
yes.
his hand up.
Dave LeGrand, sorry. I see your hand now.
Just a quick correction. That's all this is. For the members of the Regional Council Executive, I'm listed unless someone has changed my status from ministry personnel to layperson. That needs to be corrected back to ministry personnel. Otherwise, I feel like a fraud. Okay.
Thanks for the correction.
Yes,
We're
thank you for that.
correcting it in real time.
Thank you, David. Reverend LeGrand. You are seen. All right, so let's put the motion up, the words of the motion up, and then we'll get a mover and a seconder. With great thanks to Kathy and team, that the Canadian Shield Regional Council elect those listed in the nomination slate to serve on the Canadian Shield Regional Council executive, commissions, committees, and resource teams of the Canadian Shield Regional Council for the stated terms as they apply. Do we have a mover and a seconder?
Chair Nancy, I see Will Cunder's hand.
Okay, Will Cunder is
And
moving.
Crystal Grieg.
Crystal Greg. Okay, the seconds it. All right. Any further discussion? So now we're going to put the poll up to vote, and yes, no, abstain. If there is a second person in your household, use the chat box to Diane and put your name, and then yes, no, or abstain.
Chair Nancy, the vote is 62-4. 0 against, and 1 abstention.
Thank you, Diane, and everyone. The motion is carried. The motion is carried. Going to take a moment to just stretch your arms over your head to side without knocking your neighbor. And we're going to take a moment now to listen and view a video greeting that's specifically directed to our regional council from our moderator, the Reverend Dr. Carmen Lansdowne.
Siblings in Christ, it's my very deep pleasure to bring you greetings one last time from the Office of the Moderator of the United Church of Canada as you gather for the meeting of Canadian Shield Regional Council. I wish you every blessing as you explore your theme of Upon This Rock, and I look forward to reconnecting with both Canadian Shield Regional Council and Shining Waters Regional Council members in June at your Festival of Faith. Friends, it's hard to believe this will be my last message to your regional meeting as moderator. I'm deeply grateful for the times I've been able to connect with many of you in person and online. I hope to see many of you at General Council 45 in Calgary in August. The theme of General Council will be Visions and Dreams, inspired by the texts from Joel and Acts, that God will pour out the Spirit on all flesh, that our children will prophesy, our young people will see visions, and our elders will dream dreams. In January, I hosted a national pastoral welcome to the new year, our centennial year, and to new church plant leaders. The evening was built around this theme of visions and dreams, a theme that lives and breathes and describes so clearly hope for ourselves and for the future. These are days when it's not so easy to see where there's hope. The established norms of the world, of international laws and of long-standing trade partnerships are all topsy-turvy, upside down. The sand is shifting under our feet. We live in an increasingly secularized and individualized society. Even when people long for community building and to feel less alone, we remain increasingly polarized instead. There are now more dictatorships in the world than democracies. Where do we find hope in that? As moderator, I'm asked regularly where I see hope in the church. One of these places is among the participants of the Regenerate program, which is a leadership development program within the Flourishing Initiative. The participants are innovators and creative adopters of new approaches. They are deeply aware that in their leadership, they respond to a God who calls the church into being over and over again. They are visionaries and dreamers. They are ideas people. I think you might be too. As you spend time together during meetings this weekend, also remember that you are conceiving something new. Imagine the church as it could be, as it ought to be. 100 years has brought us to this moment. The next 100 years belongs to you and to the visionaries and dreamers. Because we are all called to be the church. Blessings on your work and worship together. Blessings in your call to be a church of deep spirituality, bold discipleship, and daring justice.
Special thank you to our moderator for those words of hope and inspiration. I keep being told to look at the camera. It's really tricky. So I apologize for looking down too much. At the executive retreat in September of 2024, we took time to do just that, to dream and to imagine the church lived out in our region. We used an appreciative inquiry technique thanks to the wonderful gifts of our own Diane Matheson Jimenez. And we were invited to consider two primary questions. What are we doing well as a regional council? And what do we dream the United Church in Canadian Shield will look like in 5 to 10 years? It was a rich conversation, but it felt somewhat incomplete. So over the autumn of 2024, Diane and I spent time listening to ministry personnel and to lay leaders from across the region as they considered those same two questions. From those times of listening, there arose 10 common areas of growth and opportunity. Taking those 10 categories, we then came up with 1 or 2 questions to help flesh out how we might engage these opportunities as a regional council. Early in 2025, the executive assigned specific categories and questions to the relevant commissions and resource teams for their consideration and asked them to report back to the executive. And we're waiting to hear those reports. Today, though, we thought we would take the time to invite you to look at the original 2 questions and to glean the collective wisdom around the table today. So as a reminder, the 2 questions are, and they'll be put in the chat box, what are we doing well as a regional council? What do we dream the United Church in Canadian Shield will look like in 5 to 10 years? You're going to have 10 minutes in breakout groups to discuss those 2 questions. And so I would invite you to assign a note taker who can post your responses in the chat box on our return to the plenary. The information put in the chat will then be passed along to the executive for further discussion. So you're going to be put in groups of 4 and you're going to be called back after 10 minutes. Enjoy this time together. Thank you very much, Kathleen, for doing that work of the breakout groups. I'm seeing that people are putting notes in the chat box about what we're doing well, and I see some overlap of things that we did hear back from different groups, and well, safe. Okay, sale of building. Yep, wonderful. I hope you had some good conversation, that gave you a bit of a break in many ways, just to talk to others. It's a little disconcerting at times on Zoom meetings when you're just looking at screens and you don't have a chat to engage. So in one level, this sort of was a way to engage and to put names to faces and talk and see and do. And thank you for posting and continuing to post your notes from your conversation. And that is going to the executive, will be added to the report to see if it adds to or complements others. In other words, are these repeats we're seeing, which is very helpful to know that it's across the lines and all sorts of different ways that it's a shared dream, it's a shared concern. So thank you so much on behalf of the executive. As you know, the United Church has been working on a strategic plan, and as we lean into support a shared call to deep spirituality, bold discipleship, and daring justice, we also see opportunities across our region to give shape to the future of the United Church. We may be small, but we are mighty. And our conversation this morning offered us that opportunity again to gather our collective wisdom and as we discern the way forward for our own regional council, and to take ownership too of the call that God has given us to within the United Church of Canada. So as I said, the notes gathered today through the chat will be passed along to the executive and distributed to the appropriate groups or commissions or committees for further and teams for further discussion and follow-up. In other words, I'll say you'll be hearing back from us very soon. At this time, we're going to have opportunity to hear from those commissions and those committees and those resource teams of the regional council about one highlight of their work since our last regional meeting in May of 2024. And after the representative of the commissioner resource team has spoken, there'll be a opportunity for questions arising from their report that has been printed in the resource book. So have your copy handy. I'll mention the page number as we call out each commission and team. So we're going to start with Jim Jackson from the Support Communities of Faith Commission, and his report can be found on page 48. Jim, a highlight.
Good morning. I've thought long and hard about highlights. I just commend your reading to the report, and I want to highlight two things, Chair Nancy, and I'll be brief. I'm not going on at great lengths. They're both work. I think they're both work for the congregations. One for sure. I would just highlight that we sent out a reminder about annual reports and self-assessments. This is an ongoing struggle that we have as a commission, is knowing that people have actually sent in their annual reports and receiving them, and also the self-assessments, which people should do and not spend an awful lot of time on. It's a pretty straightforward document that you can find on the website, and fill it out. It kind of opens your eyes a little bit when you answer it as honestly as you can. So please do that. It's important work for you and for us, so that we get to know you a little bit. And I would also point out that we have internally within the commission set up a template that allows us to do a consistent review of the annual reports as they come in, which we started last year. And we will continue to do that this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Are there any questions for the Support to Communities Faith Commission that arise from the report? I don't see any hands. So thank you, Jim, for the good work you and your commission do. It's ongoing work, that's for sure. We're going to now go to the Pastoral Relations Commission, and that's Stuart Walker is the chair, and its report starts on page 41. Stuart, our highlight.
Highlight. Well, our work is primarily centered around employment relationships, calls, appointments, retirements, changes of call or appointment, and vetting the calls that are and appointments that are made for compliance with policies of the United Church of Canada. And we also are responsible for the licensing of licensed lay worship leaders and sacraments elders, and appointing pastoral charge supervisors. A highlight would be that the fact that we have 32 licensed lay worship leaders across the region, which is amazing when you consider we only have 36, I believe, clergy. So, yeah, so that's some good work, and we've done some good training with people there. A challenge for us, though, is pastoral charge supervisors. With so many pastoral charges without ministry personnel leading them, we have to appoint somebody to fulfill the role of the supervisor. And we do have some congregations that are working without supervision right now because we just cannot find people who will take on that role. And we have folks who are supervising multiple pastoral charges, and we need to acknowledge that as well. Okay. So I think that's sort of highlights, challenges.
Thank you, Stuart.
Any questions?
Yeah, are there any questions for Stuart that come out of his report? Thank you, Stuart, and your commission for the good work you do. And our third commission is a property commission, and that's headed by Gord Roberts. So there he is, and that report starts on page 50 of the resource book. Gordon, a highlight.
A highlight would be that hopefully we're listening to the communities of faith in our region and not finding any excuse to go, we can't, we couldn't, we shouldn't, we won't. We are hopefully finding ways to walk with, to walk beside, and to facilitate what people need to do, believe they need to do in terms of their property. And I value that relationship, and hopefully we have time to find ways of going ahead. In terms of a challenge, our challenge will be how do we get together? What do we see as our collective mission in terms of property? Some of the challenges facing our communities of faith are getting more and more extreme. And how do we find ways of doing that work together, or having to acknowledge there are some things we simply cannot do. So that would be my sense of where we are.
Thank you, Gordon. Are there any questions that arise from the property report that's in your resource book? Thank you, Gordon, and your team. Moving along, now we're going to move into the resource teams, and we have 6 of them. And we're going to start with the Right Relations team, and Whitney Bruno is the team lead. And, Whitney, is there a highlight you'd like to share from your work as a group?
Well, the first is I did not know I was made team lead.
It's Lisa Blay.
Oh, it's Lisa Blay. Sorry. But I've got your name across from it for some reason. You're acting team lead today, perhaps. Is Lisa with us?
I am here, but
awesome.
Yeah.
I will pass it off.
But I wasn't. I didn't know I was to speak, but that's okay.
Okay, Lisa, thank you.
Okay, so
is there a highlight that comes immediately to mind for you?
Okay, a highlight that comes immediately to mind. We are our Right Relations team is very passionate. We're a small group. We are getting together to over the Festival of Faith to prepare a resource package that will be available for the wider region on a board game called. I'm just trying to remember what the name of the board game is. The Truth in Truth and Reconciliation. So I'm looking forward to having that available for everybody. We're also looking at another event, hopefully taking place at Manitoulin Island. So there is lots of work that is being done with our Right Relations team. A challenge is that we would like to have more people as part of our team, especially because we're in such a wide region. There are definitely gaps. So I highly encourage people, if you feel passionate about Right Relations, please reach out to myself or Whitney or anybody else on the team to join us. We do good work and we're very passionate about what we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Are there any questions, and apologies, are there any questions that arise for Lisa that come out of the report in the resource book? That was on page 52. Sorry, I forgot to mention it. And team, we're moving on to affirming. There he is, resource team, Peter Haddo, team lead. Any highlight you'd like to lift up from your work?
So this year we had a workshop, and our guest speaker was AJ Adams. And that was one of the biggest highlights that I had for this year, because we had the most people attend this workshop than any workshop we have done since we started. It was about why pride is important in rural Ontario. So the outcome of that is 2 things. The first and most important thing is obviously people think it's important. The second thing was that people did contact me and ask me questions, and the video is available on the regional web page. The challenge of this year is the fact that there has been so much change in the world around us, especially in regard to us LGBTQ plus community. What's happening in the States, what's happening in not just in the States, but in other parts of Canada and communities in Ontario. And so the teams had to adapt the way we're doing things. We did have a meeting, a circle, where we invited ministers from affirming congregations and student ministers to get together and talk about the challenges that they're having with everything that's happening around, and how they can provide support to those in their community, from the community to us LGBTQ community. So it's been a challenging year, and I pray that next year will be better. That's it.
Thank you, Peter. Are there any questions for Peter that arise out of his report that was found on page 51, the resource book? I mean, I echo your comment, Peter. As a congregation on a border town, we have seen an increased number of folk, particularly from across the river, coming over because of the climate there now. They're coming to an affirming congregation. Okay. Mission support grants. I have Dave Clark's name listed, and who is not here. Is there anybody else from Mission Support Grants that's able to speak on behalf of the report? Nancy Rubel, potentially. Is she here?
I can try, but I am.
Okay. Well, just is there a highlight?
I'm
for
not great
Nancy?
at answering questions.
That's okay. Is there a highlight from one highlight from your year of working together as a committee?
Well, yes, there's definitely highlights. Certainly Melody and Diane as our support people are incredible. But I have to say one of the highlights is just, I was thinking today when Diane sent out an email to everybody, she talked about creativity and she used the word creativity. And I thought that's kind of interesting because you think when you're doing, you're approving grants or, you're talking money, creativity is an interesting concept, but we have been creative. We often come up with some different ideas in our, when proposals come to us. We've invited people to talk to us so that we understand what they're asking for better. I thought that was sort of neat that it's not run of the mill. Just look at something and approve or disapprove. We really talk it over. And anyway, one of our ideas is that we see so many great proposals and great ideas that we want to come up with a way to share it with the rest of, with other churches and the rest of the region. So that's on our agenda right now.
Thank you, Nancy. You did well on the spot. And now get ready. Are there any questions that might arise for Nancy that she might be able to respond to the rise from the mission support grant that starts on page 54 of your resource book? Are there any questions? Thank you, Nancy.
You're welcome.
Now, the youth and young adult resource team, we don't have a chair for that group or a team lead. I think they work collectively. There's no report in the book, but I'm wondering if there's anybody from that team that wishes to speak to any highlight, a highlight from your year. Pam Brown, I know you're on that group. Not to put you on the spot. If there's a hand up, Celio, otherwise Celio, then we'll.
And yet you did.
Is that Pam?
Yes. And yet you did put me on the spot. Yes.
I did. Welcome to life in ministry.
Yes. So what I have to say is certainly for myself, moving forward, once June has passed, I hope to see some resurrection of this group and that we have perhaps more folks that will join. So I would say stay tuned at this point.
Okay. Thanks, Pam. Thank you, Pam. All right. And now I have Barbara Cunnington for the finance resource team. Is she here? That report starts on page 71. A lot of it dealing with the budget. She's not here.
Neither is Dave.
And neither is Dave. Okay, so if you have any questions for that report, you can put them in the chat box and Susan will pass them along to the resource team. And then finally, the executive report appears on page 37. Were there any questions that arose from that report?
We did have one question from Whitney Bose, who asked a couple of questions at the very beginning, and we promised to come back to it.
We did.
Yes.
Do you
So
want to come back to it now?
yeah, we can come back to it now. So I do have a question for Whitney about a couple of her questions, but I think I can answer most of them. And then if I don't answer them correctly, Whitney, then feel free to chime in. So you asked about the retiree names. So it hasn't been our practice of putting them in the minutes, but that is a good question to ponder and appreciate the feedback. And then the third question you ask is the executive digest used names like Peter and Susan, and I think that's a really good comment. Within the motions, we use people's full names, but when we're talking or offering information, we've had a practice of putting people's first names only. And I thought that was a really good comment. We looked over the digest during the break and noticed what you were saying. And I think it's a practice of putting the last names in brackets, which is an opportunity to for clarity. Your second point, I wasn't quite sure what you were asking, which was the placement of the Manitou paintings not mentioned record record at the last meeting. So I wonder if you could elaborate on that question or comment with me.
Sure. On minutes of the last meeting,
Yep.
the Right Relations team had placed paintings, and that was not mentioned in the minutes of the in-person meeting.
So we'll make sure we add those. We'll add that. So thank you for bringing up that point. And did I answer your other questions in the sort of spirit of what you were asking, or was I off base?
Yeah, because in the digest there's actually two Susans, so I'm like, oh, which Susan? And
Good point. Good point. Yeah. There's three actually. So no, those are really good points. And I thought those were really good points. Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you.
It's good to have that feedback.
And good to have people that read the reports.
One of the comments I just wanted to make about the executive, the work of the executive, is that part of our job of executive is actually reading the minutes from the commissions and getting reports from the teams. And a common comment that one, two, or all of us make all the time is just an acknowledgement of the tremendous amount of care, thought, work, prayer, planning, teamwork of all the many volunteers. If you had a chance to review the nominations report, or if you want to look at it online, you can see how many people it takes to run our regional council and how much work those folks do. So the Pastoral Relations Commissions, the Support to Communities of Faith Commission, our many teams. It's such a gargantuan task. And I'm grateful for all the work of our many folks who feel called to serve on those commissions and committees, and also, of course, the staff support in the background, which also is done with great care and support. But one of the key pieces I wanted to highlight for you, and if you're not signed up for it, is we have a regional newsletter called Bedrock. And it's an excellent resource for keeping up to date on what's going on in the regional council, and you can subscribe to it, or you could have congregational members subscribe to it. Sometimes Bedrock's really long, sometimes it's really short, but we're more and more trying to improve it as a way of communicating with the regional council and allowing folks to know what's going on. And then the other piece I wanted to share with you, which is really less related to the executive and more related to the work of general council, is that we are having our general council meeting this summer, General Council 45, which will be starting soon. In the past, general council sort of just happened in the summer and then theoretically existed for the 3 years, but because of technology now, the actual general councils meet outside of the in-person meeting. But the in-person meeting is happening in Calgary, Alberta this year. Some of our folks are going as commissioners or through Youth Forum. We have a number of folks going, especially from Youth Forum from Thunder Bay, but other places too. We're really excited about General Council 45. General Council 45 actually has a dedicated website as opposed to the United Church of Canada website. And I wanted to bring to your attention that on that General Council 45 website is the nominations for moderator. And folks are often like to follow that. And so if you're curious, the nominations for moderator are listed on that website with brief biographies. And I think as time progresses, the website will be populated with more information, to help you know who the moderator nominees are as they discern and as the commissioners discern who our next moderator will be. The other fun fact, if you're interested, is that you can actually watch General Council 45 online in August, and it's a great opportunity to find out what's going on in the church and to get familiar with folks around General Council. So I just wanted to highlight some of those pieces for you. And then and the last piece I wanted to highlight for you is that our actual website is also a wealth of information, especially if you look at the pull downs on the website, and we're constantly updating it. And we really appreciate the work of the folks who do update our website, but it's a great wealth of information regarding the work of the regional council. So over to you, Nancy.
Yes. And thank you, Peter. And I echo everything Peter said so eloquently. And also hopeful now that you've heard reports and read the reports and from our various commissions and resource teams, that might have now suddenly moved you to want to sign up. So please speak to Kathy Smith or Bill Jones or those commissions and express that interest. I'm just wondering, Diane, if George and Joy Bott are online now.
They are.
They are. Okay. We're going to take this opportunity. We're 15 minutes past our break, but this is important. We wanted to get you while you're with us. So we're just going to take a minute now to thank George and Joy for the work. I have to look up for the work they've been doing for us. And I want to begin with this. An idea emerges to meet an immediate need. People rally, the need is met, the project ends. We've all witnessed this life cycle in our communities of faith and congregations, but sometimes that project can take on a life of its own, growing and expanding when the response turns into a tidal wave of need and support, ongoing need and support. That's what happened when George and Joy Bott, both active at St. John's United Church in Marathon and passionate about worship leadership, saw a need. They began small, serving 4 communities of faith in their area. Crossing Boundaries Cluster, it was called. Then expanded to 80, which led to developing an online licensed lay worship leadership program, and now to professionally producing complete worship services and providing subscriptions to communities of faith across this country. George and Joy, I had the pleasure of meeting you when our paths crossed, when I was serving in Terrace-based Scriber, a new ordinand, raw and new. It was Cambrian Presbytery that I first witnessed your energy and your creativity in so many different ways. And your work, developing United in Worship, is another testament to your vision and passion for the church. And we as a region are so thankful for all that you've done and continue to do to bless Christ Church. So we take this opportunity to thank you from the bottom of our hearts for all that you've done, and that this is continuing on in new and exciting ways. So before I turn this over to Melody to continue the thanks, I wanted to invite those who are dialing in today from across the region, if you've accessed any of these exceptional resources, if you could take a moment in the chat to put in an expression of gratitude and blessing as we take time today to thank George and Joy for this gift. So I'm going to shift it over to Melody, but in the meantime, if you could put in any words of thanks, we would appreciate that. Melody.
Good morning, everyone. And I too am just sharing so much praise and gratitude for Joy and George, not just because George is my cousin. Awesome that we have a Manitoulin connection, but it's just been such a great pleasure to be working alongside them from early days as United in Worship took on a more national flair as we became Canadian Shield together, and just as a contributor to United in Worship project. It's been so great, and I'm looking forward to the ways that we'll be moving forward with the project. And as many of you know, this this has been a gift to the wider church. It's been grounded in a conviction that communities of faith, regardless of size or technological capacity, deserve access to meaningful, accessible, and theologically grounded worship material. And over the years, this project has grown into a truly trusted resource. It's guided by a simple but very powerful commitment to support the worship life of congregations and to share worship grounded in United Church theology, scripture, and values. And George and Joy, you've done this so generously. You've never sought compensation. You've always ensured accessibility, especially with those who need that step, who have limited resources, from sermon manuscripts to calls to worship, prayers of the people. Your work has always reflected the rhythm of the liturgical year and the spiritual needs of congregations across the country. So on behalf of Canadian Shield Regional Council and all of those that I've encountered across the country and here at home in Canadian Shield who have benefited from the United in Worship project, I just want to say thank you for your dedication and your creativity and your service to the wider church. And now I'd like to share some updates for this ministry. George and Jim Jackson and myself and Bronwyn Corlett from the National Church have been meeting as George and Joy kind of take some steps away from this project. Not completely away, but changing the relationship with the project. And so I just want to let folks know that a short survey has been developed and is in the process of being distributed to current subscribers of United in Worship. And the goal is to better understand how our current users are engaging with the resource, what you need, where there might be gaps. And if your church is currently subscribing to this resource, please keep an eye out for an email from George. As I mentioned, there's been a small group that has been working together to plan for transition for this project with Canadian Shield and General Council support. And while we are exploring alternative programs and platforms, we all remain deeply committed to supporting communities of faith with limited resources. We want to make sure that no one is left behind. So a practical update for current users. We just got this update from George this week that George has set up a shared Google Drive folder for this project. And this drive includes both current year and archived material. And it's organized to be simple to navigate. And this link will allow users to view and download archived material. And in the next weeks, George and Joy will be continuing to add some material intermittently, especially as part of their worship leadership in Marathon. But after June 30th, they will not be uploading weekly files. And during the summer, there will be no updates at all. So we encourage congregations who are current subscribers to use archived materials during those periods. And as the program and project transitions, we in Canadian Shield are invited to think about how we're using those resources, especially that archive material, and as we develop those partnerships with other United Church of Canada programs. And this ensures that the project is continuing to serve our communities well into the future, even as Joy and George step back. As I said, this is a very recent update. We're still working on this and we're continuing to work on logistics in the coming weeks. And I'm going to stop there, but also as your support staff and who is continuing to offer support to this project, please let me know if you have any questions or concerns. If you see that survey, please fill it out because it helps us to take good next steps. And so I'll just finish there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Melody. George and Joy, did you want to respond in any way? We're going to respond soon, but
thank you.
Oh,
yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. A round of applause.
It really has been a labor of love for us.
Yeah, and it shows. It has shown, and we're thankful. And the legacy continues, which is even more wonderful, isn't it? Yeah. All right. Well, now it's time to take a break. So sorry, George.
Our final decision is to gift everything that we've done to Canadian Shield Region in the hopes that we will be able to continue that in some form. It may not be exactly the same way. And so for those who are currently subscribed, and there are 47 churches from right across Canada, as far north as Flin Flon, south to southwestern Ontario and Newfoundland.
And BC.
And yes, and Vancouver Island. And so we literally are covering the whole country right now. It's amazing.
From coast to coast to coast.
Yeah, yeah. And it's been really a wonderful experience, both for us, because we've made so many amazing friends out of this journey.
Wonderful. Well, I want to let you know that when we transcribe the recording of this meeting, what appears in the chat box will be sent to you, so you'll have a record of what was shared as a thank you as well.
Thank you.
So thank you to the both of you, and thank you to those who've subscribed and those who now are interested in subscribing. This is wonderful. We're going to take a 10-minute break. We're a little over time, but that's okay. You want to be back at?
Let's go.
Oh, let's see.
Go
It's
back
10 minutes at about
Right.
53. 11:53. Go take a bathroom break, a stretch break. We'll be back at 11:53. Welcome back, everyone. I'd like now to welcome Reverend Rob Smith to turn on his camera and unmute to lead us in our family time.
Thank you, Chair Nancy, and thank you to all of you. It's a real pleasure to be with you this morning, and I'm told to keep it short. I'm 5'4", so everything I do, I keep short. So, but I think it's really important as we come to the end of Volunteer Week to just take a moment and say thank you. Thank you to all of you for the amazing work that you do. We are blessed in this region, and I have to say, I am blessed to have this amazing job to work with the amazing people that you are. And so, and I just want to acknowledge that I've been doing this for 6 years, and it's the best job I've ever had in my life. And it is all because I get to work with amazing people like yourselves. So without further ado, I just want to begin with our licensed lay worship leaders. We are blessed, and I hate to challenge the chair of my commission, but he had the numbers reversed. We actually, at this present moment, have 36 licensed lay worship leaders and only 32 active involved in a call or an appointment ministers. And so we actually have more licensed lay worship leaders than we do ministers. Serving ministers. We have lots of wonderful ministers, retired, serving in many other ways as well. So without the faithful service, many of our churches, this is licensed lay worship leaders, would not have regular Sunday morning worship. So we're very grateful for their ministry among us. We give thanks for Karen Brophy for her many years of service as an LLW. She has decided to retire this year. So thank you, Karen, for your work. We also say thank you to Roger West. And just stay at one slide, Salio, and I'll get to that slide very quickly here. We also want to say thank you to Roger West and Lorna Corzine for their service over the years. They have recently moved to another region and hope to continue to serve as licensed lay worship leaders there. We also give thanks for Kathleen McCallum, who has been training a new group, a whole new crop of lay worship leaders online and in person. Their hybrid training program will actually come to an end next weekend at Villa Loyola, and they will be ready to be interviewed and licensed as well. And in talking with Kathy this week, she's been working with 12 new folks, and so we're really excited about that. We also, as you've already done, we also want to thank Joy and George Bott for their ongoing commitment to supporting the online training program through United Learning. And I'm also grateful for Joy Bott, Janice Frame, Susan Peverly, Peter Haddo, Jane Graham, and Dawn York for their willingness to serve on our regional LLW resource and support team. They're a great team, and I feel very privileged and honored to work with them. Our LLWs are divided into 3 regions and are interviewed to be relicensed every 3 years. We just completed the process for our folks in the eastern part of our region, North Bay and vicinity, and they are now licensed until June 30th, 2028. We did all 10 interviews on one day. It was an amazing experience. So let me begin in the west part of our region as we celebrate the following LLWs. George Bott, Joy Bott, Kathy Bright, Lorna Chipka, Robert Cosby, Vivian Hall, Diana Hannaford Wilcox, I apologize for the spelling error there, John McDonald, Cindy Raby, Marie Rinnie, Lori Van Sort. I always want to just call Lori Jansikovich, but it's Van Sortfurt Jansikovich, Nancy Vernon, and Wanda Walding. And we celebrate our regions in the east, North Bay and area. We give thanks for Linda Clark, Rob Ferris, Peter Haddow, Elizabeth Henderson, Ron Holotok, Jennifer Morleg, Brenda McClay, Francis Morris, Aaron Palmer, Linda Sargentson, and John Sheridan. Amazing people, amazing people. And in our central region, we have Gail Cronin, Jane Graham, David Chipka, Shannon Edmond, Cindy Hebert, Marg Hindelson, Ross McLeod, Faye Moffett, Brian Mundell, Nancy Mundell, Judy Sears, and Dawn York. Thank you so much for those amazing work of our licensed lay worship leaders. Carrying on, we are blessed to have 2 remaining students working within our region, and we'll move to that slide. We give thanks for Torin Mag, who's serving the people in Thessalon at Zion United. And Torin is a student at Atlantic School of Theology in the distance, what I would have called the distance program. I think it has a new name. And we give thanks for Kim Inglis, who is currently serving Trinity Manitoulin, Minda Moya, and she's a student at the Center for Christian Studies and hoping to be commissioned eventually as a deacon. And Torin is in the ordination process. And this is the exciting news. On June 15th, I hope all of you will flock to Sudbury to not only enjoy the Festival of Faith, but to join us on Sunday morning at Bell Park in Sudbury at the amphitheater there as we celebrate ordination. And this year, by the grace of God, and the river don't rise, and you all get your professional or your provisional calls in to the Pastoral Relations Commission soon. These 4 people will be ordained on June 15th, and they are starting with Laura Hutchinson from Covenant in Timmins. After 5 years of active DLM service, she will become ordained and be called the Reverend Laura Hutchison. So we're excited about that. And then all at the other end of the region, Stephen Loweth from Westminster and Thunder Bay will also be, after 5 years of service, or more than 5 years of service as a DLM, will become ordained on June 15th. Congratulations, Stephen and Laura. And Pam Brown, after many years of studies at the Atlantic School of Theology and serving the fine people of Trinity Capriel, she also passed her interview this week, and I understand the provisional call is coming. It's wrestling with Church Hub sometimes. Anyways, congratulations, Pam. She too will be ordained. And finally, by the grace of God and the river don't rise, Caitlin Smithers at St. Andrews in North Bay will be receiving a provisional call. She's a graduate of Atlantic School of Theology. And so we celebrate all of our ordinands. And I believe Pam is on her way to Nova Scotia to actually be to graduate from her seminary. From Atlantic School of Theology. Okay, that's and also Pam, I just welcome you to the PRC. Looking forward to working with you on that in June when all this is done. Okay, I'm going as fast as I can. Finally, or not finally, next we celebrate ministers from other denominations who are serving in our communities of faith. And right now, currently, we have Bev, who is at St. George's in Espanola, but also serving with Espanola United Church. And so We welcome you, Bev, and well, you're part of the family now. You've been with us for almost 3 years, I think. So you might as well just become united. Anyways, thank you, Bev. And now we go to Jubilans. These are the people who are celebrating significant anniversaries within the United Church of Canada. And I like to begin at the beginning. So we'll start with Whitney Bruno, who is celebrating 5 years since her ordination. Thank you, Whitney, and thank you for the light that you are to our our region. So for
5
10
years
years.
in United Church of Canada.
Okay, I was going to say, I thought
9 years United Church ordination.
Okay, I wondered about that. Thank you for clarifying that, Whitney. But congratulations on 9 years, and thank you for joining us here in Canada and in the United Church of Canada. We are richer for that. Now, I won't say that about everybody. I'm sorry. You're all wonderful people. For 10 years, we celebrate Sandra Jenkinson, who serves Trout Creek and Southridge, Sundridge. So thank you, Sandra, for your gift to us. And 15 years, Anna Chukowski, Kathy Dahmer, and Doreen Lancashire Smith. Thank you for your ministry to us. Celebrating 20 years is Erin Todd. Thank you for, and we just celebrate with Erin as she takes on the chair of our candidacy board. I forget what the official title, but it's both Canadian Shield and Shining Waters. So thank you, Erin, for your service and your 20 years with us. Moving to 25. Some of you might know this woman, Melody Duncanson Hales. What a gift she has been to our denomination, and we celebrate your 25 years, Melody. And we give thanks also for Ted serving in North Bay. So congratulations, Ted and Melody. Moving on to 30 years, we give thanks for Will Cunder. An amazing gift he continues to be to our church. And we give thanks to Linda, who's joined us in Sudbury at St. Andrews for this year, and we celebrate with you your 30 years. And Corey, we give thanks for your 30 years as well. Next is our 35 years. And Joyce, thank you for your service and your ministry among us and with us. And we ask God to bless you. Thank you for your 35 years. 40 years is Linda Stemp and Paul Stemp. And we give thanks also for Mark Wilson. 45 years is Donna Hazlitt. Gord Roberts and Hugh Walker, thank you for your ministry and your commitment to this United Church of ours. Celebrating 50 years, David Silman, living in Thunder Bay, and we give thanks for his ministry as well. And for 65 years, an amazing man. I really appreciated his wisdom when I first came to Thunder Bay, and I am thankful for his 60, yeah, can I say that? 65 years, Edward Prinslar. Thank you so much. And now we take a moment to celebrate our minister who retired as of December 31st, and that is Catherine Somerville. Catherine was ordained in 1987 and settled at Little Current on Manitoulin Island. She served St. Stephen's on the Hill in Sudbury for 12 years and then served as an interim minister and eventually became Manitou Conference personnel minister. And she returned to parish ministry at St. Andrews and then back to St. Stephen's on the Hill, where she served until she retired this past December. Thank you, Catherine, for your faithful service these last 37 and a half years, and blessings on your next adventures, whatever they might be. And now we also take a moment to just give thanks for those who have served this life and have fought the good fight and have moved on. And we begin with Reverend Bryn Carson, who passed away on December 1st, 2024. Bryn was a designated lay minister who served faithfully the folks at Porcupine United Church until her health forced her to retire. We give thanks for her ministry and for the light of Christ that shone through her life. There was a picture for her, was there? Yeah, there she is there. And the other person we acknowledge this year is B. Webb, who passed away this year, February the 8th. B was a faithful lay leader from Porcupine United Church who served Cochrane Presbytery, Spirit Dancing Presbytery, and the Canadian Shield Regional Council. We give thanks for her ministry and for the light of Christ that shone through her life. Thank you. That's my part of the family time, and I turn it back to our chair.
Thank you, Rob, and to your committee that worked so hard to acknowledge all those milestones. It's very important to do that. And I've also, as your chair of your executive, am mindful and awed by the amount of work that is undertaken on your behalf, or our behalf, by I would say, I counted 87 people, and want to lift up I know we call it volunteering, and I bristle at that word. I will be honest, in the context of the church, because volunteering means we have an option, and when we respond to the gospel, it's about giving our life, and we find different ways to do that throughout our life. And as Rob listed, so many people, they are living their discipleship in such a profound way, and there are so many more that are doing that. And I just want to name like Stuart Walker and Gord Roberts and Jim Jackson, who chair the 3 different commissions, Peter Haddow, Barb Cunnington, Dave Clark, Bill Jones, Lisa Blake, Christina Boggs, and Ernie Epp as well, who serves as our rep in the Social Justice Network Ontario Regional Councils. Those people are sharing resource teams, but underneath them, or beside them really, are an additional 77 people. And we add also the staff cohort that resource those teams and commissions. We're so thankful for the time that you give and offer, and the gifts that you share to that important work. So just want to acknowledge that it's not just this table, it's not just a few, it's a whole team, and with the support of the entire regional council working with you and cheering you on. So we thank you for that. Melody, moving on to the next important piece.
So I'm just checking in with Celio with slides, and I'm really hoping that that Celio has slides to share. I'm just looking to see where we are at.
I'm going to butt in, Melody,
okay,
and just
Celio can get those slides.
Just acknowledge that Gord has reminded me that he's much younger than I made him. He's only served 35 years and not 45. So I apologize, Gord, for those extra 10 years. I'm sure you've worked it hard, but congratulations on 35 years. Sorry, Melody, carry on.
And I'm so grateful to Celio for coming up with those slides. That was fast. Friends in Christ, as part of our shared life in the Canadian Shield Regional Council, we pause now to mark important transitions in the lives of several communities of faith this past year. And these moments are sacred, and they hold memory and grief and celebration and hope. And so today we recognize congregations that have entered new phases of ministry, some continuing in new spaces and others bringing their shared journey to a faithful close. And Celio, if you could advance to the next slide. And these are the congregations that we remember today. We have St. Mark's United Church, Bruce Mines United Church, St. Stephen's on the Hill United Church, and St. Andrew's United Church in Schreiber. So please continue. So St. Andrew's United Church in Schreiber made the decision to disband in October 2024 following the sale of their property this past September. And their former church building will be used for technical training by the new owners, Exam Prop, who hope to align their projects with the community's improvement policy, and they see a vision of serving as a multi-use facility or a community hub. And they would love to be supporting residential use, green space use in this year. And today we give thanks for the legacy of St. Andrew's and the faithful ministry they have offered over many years. We are especially grateful for the extraordinary service of St. Andrew's trustees in these last years as they sought to resolve property and legal issues. And in particular, I need to name George Bott, who has served so faithfully as St. Andrew's Pastoral Charge Supervisor. Thank you so much. I'll name that many of the members from St. Andrew's continue in their life connecting with St. John's in Marathon. And so we'll move to next, Bruce Mines United Church in Bruce Mines also marked a significant milestone with the transfer of its building to the Bruce Mines Historical Society in May of 2024. This congregation remains active and engaged, continues to worship in the building, which is now under new ownership. The United Church is tied to the history of the town of Bruce Mines, and they now make history together. And the church hails this transition as good news. Their ministry and mission in the community continues, and their partnership with the Historical Society and their ongoing outreach through the Community Food Bank is still making impact in the wider community. And we honor their faithful discernment, and we give thanks for the ways they are embodying the church beyond bricks and mortar. We'll move to the next one. Thanks, Elio. So St. Stephen's on the Hill United Church in Sudbury sold its building to Restoration Church in November of 2024. The congregation of St. Stephen's on the Hill continues to worship and serve in this same space, now under new ownership. And this transition reflects a spirit of collaboration and shared vision with not only Restoration Church, but also a third residence church, which also holds tenancy in the building. We give thanks for the continuity of ministry and the creative partnerships that sustain the body of Christ in all its diversity. And as a note, in January 2025, St. Stephen's on the Hill United Church and Trinity United Church in Lively entered into a shared ministry agreement under the leadership of Reverend James Coe. And this partnership affirms the strength of connectional ministry and the promise of shared vision, resources, and care. And so we give thanks for that new ministry and two congregations' willingness to explore new models of cooperation, bearing faithful witness in the greater Sudbury area. And finally, I'd like to share news from St. Mark's United Church in Sudbury, who has also sold their property, which is now serving the wider community as the new home of the Canadian Hard of Hearing Association as of this past September. And while the building ownership has changed hands, St. Mark's has continued to faithfully witness and minister in new and exciting, vital ways. First, finding its worship home continued in this building, but now as 2025 continues, they are a pilgrim church under the leadership of Reverend Kathy Dahmer. And they are going to be continuing to explore different places within the city of Greater Sudbury and experimenting where to call home. And so we celebrate this congregation's adaptability and courage in discerning how best to serve God's mission in this season. And it is so heartening if you ever have a chance to speak with someone from St. Mark's to hear about the bonds and the relationships they've made in really understanding what their mission is together. It's been quite profound and inspirational. And I just offer a word of blessing for each of these communities, giving thanks for the faithfulness of God's people, for every step made in faith, for every decision made with courage, and for every relationship that is nurtured with care. We are grateful. And we pray that there will be continued blessings on these congregations in renewed spaces or under new arrangements, and pray that we will all be inspired to trust in God's ever unfolding future. We are all companions together in the way. Thanks be to God.
Thank you, Melody. On June 10 is the 100th anniversary of the United Church of Canada. And on the Sunday prior, June 8, many communities of faith across the region will be celebrating in a variety of ways. We've heard about joint worship services, and we've heard about shared projects. We've heard about outdoor barbecues and watch parties, and participating even in the Festival of Faith as a way to celebrate. Has your community of faith decided how you're going to celebrate this milestone, this centennial? We're pleased to report that 41 communities of faith in the region have applied for and received to date a gift of $100 from the Regional Council to assist in their celebrations. The deadline has passed, but it's still open. In other words, they're still taking requests. If you haven't yet indicated that that would be helpful to you, please do so as soon as possible. But there is the deadline's been lifted, so please do that. Additionally, the United Church Canada will be live streaming the service on June 8 on its YouTube channel. It's the National Centenary Anniversary Service, and it's being held at Gower Street United Church in Newfoundland, and it's being live streamed our time at 5:30 p.m. So you can have a morning service, and you can do a watch party at 5:30 if you'd like to fill Sunday with a celebration. But however and whatever you choose to do to mark the day, we offer blessing on all your plans. I'm mindful of the time. It's 12:15. And before we head into the good news story, I'd like to take a motion to extend the time of our meeting. We don't think we're going to go much beyond 12:30, but we do want to make sure that we have the permission of the court to do that. So I'm calling for a motion to extend the agenda to 1 p.m. And I need a mover and a seconder. 1 p.m. or until we finish before that time, but 1 p.m. at the latest. So do we have a mover and a seconder?
Chair Nancy, I see Bill Stedman's hand first and Susan
Okay.
Peverly's hand second.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Susan. Is there any discussion? Okay. So we need to somehow do we create a poll, or we just do a show of virtual hands?
No, Kathleen has a.
Kathleen has a poll. Amazing staff. So the poll is on your screen. If you could either vote. Does it mean 100% have voted yes already? And then we just need the chat box.
It's coming in.
Yes, I see that. Yeah. So if you can vote by the poll on your screen, and if you don't have access to, if you could put in the chat box, or your second person, put in the chat box, yes, no, or abstain.
Chair Nancy, the votes are 58 for, 0 against, 1 abstention.
Thank you, Diane. The motion is carried, and thank you for the trust of the court to move along and to allow this to happen, because there's still some important stuff to do. And I'm moving on to Jim Jackson. So Jim, if you're out there, you're going to unmute, and we're going to put you on the screen, and you're going to facilitate this time of sharing across the region.
I am in the ethers, as so to speak. I have been given no detailed instructions on how to do this, other than to ask the gathered masses here what their good news stories may be. So please raise your hand, and we'll carry on down the road till Nancy says we don't have any time to talk anymore. Anybody have any good news stories? I can't believe it so far.
Nancy here. I might get the ball rolling.
There you go.
And
yes,
just to say
you.
that, yeah, thank you. Cam McDougall, which has been running since 1960 here in the former Algoma Presbytery, is back up and running. And the work they've done to get this back after a 2-year hiatus due to lack of staff and COVID and all those things, those challenges are just it's exciting what's been happening in this part of the region. So that's a good news story. A really empowered board and a creative board bringing new life.
Thank
Share
you.
that with the region.
I saw Linda Todd's hand up.
I just wanted to share that Onaping Falls Pastoral Charge since the fall has been served, or we're serving together with Reverend Diane Tate. And Diane brings so much joy and enthusiasm to her ministry here that the whole congregation is very joyful and enthusiastic about what's happening. So we're grateful for that.
Thank you. Nancy Rubo is the name, is a hand I see up.
Hi. I just wanted to share a little project that our church did. And I belong to East Core Maxwell United in Sault Ste. Marie. We're a relatively small congregation and older, you know, no surprise there. But I'm on the grants committee, and I think it was B. Webb that introduced me to the idea of something called shopping free, which was, I compare it to a white elephant sale, except you're not charging anybody for anything. And it's designed for children to come and pick out things for their family members. So I just brought that idea up to our church, and I can't believe how they embraced it. So we had our whole basement full of some were brand new items that people had bought, but we had it full of things that could be chosen for parents and grandparents and brothers and sisters. And it was a really snowy day. It was the first, well, we've had so many snowy days, but it was the first Saturday in December. And we thought, oh no, maybe nobody will come. And we had baking and coffee and tea, and we had all kinds of volunteers that were going to help the children pick out things. And we had a wrapping station, which in hindsight was not well thought out. It's going to change for next year. We're using bags, not wrapping. But anyway, I just wanted to share that it ended up being such a joyful event for our church. We brought many people into our church building who had never been in our church building before, and we shared the idea of Christ's love and generosity with a wider community. So that's my story.
Thank you. Lillian.
Yeah, I just want to share with folks some of the work that has been happening in the North Bay area around the centennial celebrations. So all of the churches of the former North Bay Presbytery have been networking about how we can celebrate together. And we had a wonderful United Church Trivia Day first weekend in March. And for the June 6th to 8th weekend, we have a number of events planned. The Mustard Seed Production Youth Theater Group is giving a presentation on the Friday evening and Saturday matinee. We are having a tour of the stained glass windows in the North Bay area that have been designed and fabricated by David Morgan, who is actually going to lead the tour. Saturday night, we are getting together with a local band, the hosts that work out of Trinity United Church. Many of you will know them, and we are doing a hops and hymns evening downtown, and tickets for that are flying off the window, if you want to say. And then Sunday, we are doing joint worship at Callender Community Center, and a kind of nod to having the original Union service at an arena. And we are gathering for worship and barbecue after, and activities that are styled on a traditional Sunday school picnic. And in support of that, we are pleased to share that we received $2,000 from the United Church Foundation Centennial Grants. And so we are grateful for that support of the wider church as well.
Thank you. Susan.
Hi, oh, yeah, I'm unmuted.
You are.
A couple of things. I have two congregations here in Manitoulin Island. One of them has a, Knox in Manitowoc has a long-term rummage sale. They don't do a 1-day thing or a weekend thing. They run a rummage sale probably for a total of 9 months out of the year, 4 days a week for 9 months of the year. And it is absolutely awesome to see the number of people who support it, both by coming in and buying stuff, but by their donations. It's just, it's a wonderful outreach, and it's really heartening to see people. We actually have a 103-year-old woman who comes over from Lively with their son every Wednesday. The other good news thing is my other congregation is South Bay Mouth, which is the northern port for the Cheecham Ferry coming in from Tobermory, connecting north with south. And last year, well, they've noticed for years that a lot of people don't attend Sunday morning services in the summer because they're busy getting ready for the ferry to come in and that. Last year, we decided to move our worship service till Sunday evening at 8 o'clock. The last ferry leaves at 7:40, and it is incredible the number of people who get off of the ferry. They go for a walk, they hear worship going on, and they come in and join us. So it really has made a difference, and it's so wonderful to see people new to the area or returning people coming in because they know that they can come to an evening service on Manitoulin Island. And that's me.
Hey, thank you. Kaylin.
Yeah, so I'm so happy to join this meeting today and hear about so many good stories. So I would also like to share one, which is shared to me by Julie Shaw of St. Andrew's United Church in Loring. And when I first know about this church, I tried to search it. Loring, where is it? Yeah, yeah. So Julie shared with me that it's a very remote, a very rural community. And when I talked to Rob Smith, he said that, yes, it is. If you list something there, you have to go back. You really feel that it's very remote. And what she shared with me is that they have when she went there, when she moved there, she started a program for young people, and that program continues. And also at the same time, there are a lot of support received by the community, and it's just everything it goes so well. And when she shared this story with me, she said she would like to see that the same thing happen in other rural community. I think this is very encouraging. Yeah, something is happening in a very remote area, but yeah, there is an ambition to share this, and it could be done, yeah, in other rural community as well. So I think I want to share it with you. I'm excited. I hope that you feel the same, and we try to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And Melody, you have your hand up.
I do. I'm going to lower my hand now. I like it's great to hear these things, and I always have great news to share with folks. The first piece of great news after listening to Callan is to announce that there is a Canadian Shield Regional Council grant to support congregations in growth. We've just cleaned this all up this past week, and I'm really pleased to announce that we are able to offer grants of up to $5,000 to congregations who are looking to support work with new Canadians or looking to do some visioning and strategic planning, or to, like, what's the third one? Diane is not in front of me. Help me out. What's the third one? Sustainability, new Canadians, and
supporting communities that are welcoming diasporic communities.
yeah. So and sustaining communities of faith. So there's a lot in there. And we have a conversation with myself or Diane. We have application process ready for that particular growth grant. We've heard some conversations about transitions. Oh, I know what it was. In encouraging congregations to build formal relationships of collaboration. That was another area that we're supporting. I also have been prompted to announce, and this is very new, we have not put any promotion out for folks in Sudbury, but as we heard from North Bay, there's something happening for a watch party for the June the 8th worship service from Newfoundland, from Gower Street United in Newfoundland. And due to the generosity of a congregation, the cavern at the IMAX Theater at Science North has been rented out for that evening for anyone who happens to be in Sudbury that day to come and join us for an evening time for that watch party. So it is full immersive watch party. Like it's like you're almost there at the IMAX Theater in Sudbury. So we hope to see you there. And I know that there are, so please watch for some promotion coming out around that. It's very new. And of course, there's been so much work done on the Festival of Faith. I'm looking at Rob. I'm looking at our notes to see if there's any announcements of the Festival of Faith, any promotion about that. But I do want to celebrate the Festival of Faith and in particular a closing worship, which is also supported through the generosity of the United Church Foundation and that Centennial Grant. This is the worship service on June the 15th, and it is going to be held outdoors at the Grace Hartman's Amphitheater at Bell Park on right in the heart of Sudbury. So we are looking forward to greeting you there and celebrating ministry there together with our moderator, Carmen Lansdowne, and with churches from all across the city of Greater Sudbury. I think I've got as many as I can in there.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't see any other hands up. I would just like to add from our congregation's point of view.
I had my hand up.
I don't see a hand. Who is speaking?
It's me, Desire.
Ah, there you are. My screen is limited like your screen, so my apologies. Desire.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I just want to share good news from our congregation. We are organizing a family camp. I think last year we tried to organize a youth camp together with another church in the city, but that did not materialize because we could not come up with the numbers of the children. The camp happened, but with very little participation. But I'm so glad that we are trying to organize a family camp, what we are calling a family camp. And up to now, we have 55 people who have registered, and that's very good for our church. And these are from St. Paul's United. We have not yet started, receiving people from other Thunder Bay United churches yet. So I think we are looking forward to that. And we want to thank on behalf of the church, to thank the region for the grant they gave us. We received a 2,500 grant to support the family camp. The other thing that we are very thankful is we have had in the past year or two growth in terms of diversity in our congregation. We have a very huge number of people of color who are now part. I've already, some of them confirmed them into membership. Some are baptized, who are now part of the St. Paul's membership. And our youth is really growing. So that's good news that I wanted to share with everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Now I do see a couple more hands went up. There you are, Pam.
Yes, I wanted to share that at Trinity Capriol, we do what is called Supper Church. And we just completed our 12th Supper Church. It's on a Thursday evening from 5:30 to about 7, just before the the choir goes and does what they do on Thursday evenings. But it is an intimate setting in the lower hall where the worship team takes turns engrossed in liturgy of communion and take turns doing that. And folks sit around tables. There's not a sermon, but it's small group table conversations, exegeting a scripture text or whatever that might be that I bring. But it is a beautiful time of worship, and we're seeing new faces each time we do supper church. So if you would like opportunities to do this in your own community of faith, the 12 that I've crafted are available to you. So you just need to email me.
Thank you. Thank you. Lionel.
Just a brief bit of good news. So in celebrating the 100th anniversary of the United Church, my congregation, First Wesley United Church in Thunder Bay, has invited all of the area churches to worship with us on the 8th of June. So that should be a big celebration and a wonderful opportunity to get all our congregations together.
Thank you. No more hands. Let me just say that last Sunday we invited Harmony United Church to be with us at Trinity United Church in Thunder Bay. And we celebrated the morning worship service by having the bluegrass band Gibson, Martin, and I with us. They had also been at First Wesley weeks before. And it was an exciting service. It was different. And I would say 95% people actually enjoyed the service and were involved in it. So it was a good and worshipful time for us and different. So I don't know if there are other hands up or not.
Okay. That's one. And there were a lot of comments put in the chat box, Jim. So I'm thinking that
Yes,
those who didn't feel able to speak aloud at least have recorded them there. And so there's quite a bit of more good news. Oh, and there's Stephen.
Hi, Stephen.
Oh, hi, Jim. I just wanted to say that this past Sunday, a nice low Sunday, we celebrated Holy Humor, and just for a lot of fun, no one had a clue, but Lyle and I switched churches and kind of hid I hid in Lionel's office, and on the door was taped a sign saying, "Please don't disturb Reverend Lionel, as he has to rewrite a sermon due to a computer meltdown." And then I popped out of the sanctuary and we had a really good laugh, and it was a lot of fun to let things go and celebrate some humor that God has given us. So grateful for that.
Good.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, that's good.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Jim, for leading us.
Back to you.
Thank you for leading us in that time, Jim, and for all those who shared some good of the good news, just a slice of the good news that's happening around our region. One last announcement before we call upon Desire, and that is the Festival of Faith has been mentioned a couple of times. Susan gave me a note saying that there are 56 spots left. So if you haven't yet registered for the Festival of Faith, which is running from June 13 to the 15th in Sudbury, please do so and just go to the website and click on the button for Festival of Faith, and there's a registration template there for you just to fill in and send. So that's 56 spots left. It's shaping up really in a real exciting way. So we're looking forward to that event, and followed, of course, by the worship service to welcome 4 new ordinands into our region. So that's wonderful. So Desire, if I could turn it over to you, if you could unmute and we'll spotlight you. If you could offer a theological reflection on our time today, that would be appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me begin by greeting everyone who is gathered in this space. And I would want to thank the organizers, the chair, and everyone else involved for choosing me. I've not done this before. This is my first time to be the theologian for the United Church. And when I was asked to do this, I said I accepted the responsibility. But there was some communication problem there because I thought this was for the Festival of Faith. So I want to thank Cindy Rabi. She reminded me, she said, I saw on some documents of the regional meeting that you are doing something. And that's when I started thinking about this. But be that as it may, I feel that God is calling us, all of us at this time, to the theme of our church, which is guiding the United Church: deep spirituality, bold discipleship, and daring justice. And this calling connects very much with the Easter season as we celebrate the resurrected Lord and the spirit of resurrection. And I find myself in that spirit of deep spirituality as we engage in prayer, in worship, in music, bold discipleship, which is an area of my calling, discipleship calling. And I think this is a place where the church is called today to get out of the buildings and maybe move away from the comfort zone and engage in activities that help us to stay alive. So there is a lot of bold discipleship, bold in asking God to guide us. And at a time in the season when we are, of course, declining, this is a time in the season when so many people are coming to become new Canadians. And I think it is a calling for our region and our church to wake up from the slumber and begin to find a way for how we can match population developments and immigration developments in our communities and reach out to people. That's not an easy thing, but it can be done. This spirit of the risen Lord and the stories that we hear from the book of Mark of the stone that was covering the tomb and the stories of the appearances, the joy, the mystery, the confusion of the spirit of Easter. May God guide us during this time, and may the spirit of the Lord be upon the church. Thank you.
Thank you, Desire. Much appreciated. Those words of wisdom and faith and challenge too. We're going to move now. We're almost at the end. Oh, we did it. We're going to, before we adjourn, there's two things to do. There's a blessing to offer and a song to sing. So we're going to start with the blessing, and then we're going to move into the hymn, and then we're going to end with our adjournment. So the blessing I want to share comes from a book by Jan Richardson, a favorite of mine. It's her book called Circle of Grace, and it sort of bookends the opening worship this morning. And the blessing is entitled Seen, and it was written for Easter Day. So I want you to imagine yourself going toward the tomb. You had not imagined that something so empty could fill you to overflowing. And now you carry the knowledge like an awful treasure, or like a child that curls itself within your heart, how the emptiness will bear forth a new world you cannot fathom, but on whose edge you stand. So why do you linger? You have seen, and so you are already blessed. You have been seen, and so you are the blessing. There is no other word you need. There is simply to go and to tell. There is simply to begin. Let's sing our closing hymn, We Shall Go Out with Hope of Resurrection, and Faye is going to lead us. A special thank you to Faye Moffett for sharing her gifts of music leadership and song. And it's now my pleasure as chair of Canadian Shield Regional Council to declare the 2025 online Canadian Shield Regional Council meeting is now adjourned at 12:50 p.m. And I know some of you will now be clicking off, and we send our blessing to you. But if you are staying for a bit, we're just going to open it up to an invitation to anyone who wishes to unmute themselves and speak a word or a short sentence of blessing into this shared space. Go in peace, my friends, to love and serve.